Hello, it's Nikki. Welcome back. Today I'm going to be talking about one of my favorite tools that I have used so often in my own life and that I share with my clients as well. This is my own tool, so if you borrow it, make sure you credit me. It's called the Success Timeline. It's great. So here's how we do it. I go into more detail here in your digital disco and speak up. That's where you'll get a much more detailed description. But let me give you the outline so you can begin to play around with it. The success timeline is an opportunity not only for you to have that moment where you remember to yourself, oh my goodness, I forgot that I did all of these things. Or, wow, I have really enjoyed a lot and I'm much tougher than I think. Or sometimes it's that moment that when you're updating your website, you think, oh, I forgot I did that. That was pretty cool, actually. And there's no record of it out there in the world. So there's two things going on at the same time. You having that moment of like, whoa, okay, you've lived a lot of life in 42 years, like I have sometimes when I do this exercise. And secondly, having that realization that maybe what I'm putting out there is not translating the reality. As in, I might put stuff out there on my website and I might go and look at it and think, actually, it's very brief. Or it's not quite getting to the heart of it, or there's so much more that I can say. So the success timeline is as follows. You grab a piece of paper and a pen, however you like to do this. There's no right or wrong way. And you might want to start with that timeline version, or you might like to do it in order, however you want to do it. You start with writing down when you were born and today's date. And then the first layer is about putting in the facts, essentially. It might be when you started school, when you moved to secondary school, maybe you had a big house move, maybe the moment where you left home, maybe when you got married, maybe when you changed job, maybe when you set up your business or had a child or went traveling or went on HRT or whatever it might be. Those moments where you were like, I remember that day, that was significant, that needs to go in. And then what you can begin to do is to color in the picture. This could be maybe when you had a chance meeting, or you read a book on one particular holiday in Portugal in 1998 and it changed your life forever. Or maybe you saw a particular film and suddenly you saw yourself in a different way. All of those moments. And I want you to fill it in and color it in and get it all flavorful as much as you can. And this might not be something for all in one go. It might be something that you add to over time. Another version of this, which I recently did, which is another great exercise, is to do the financial version. So I drew when I first started earning money, all the way up to the present day. And I thought about where I was living, who I was in a relationship with or not, or, in a situationship with, who I'd met, how it was all working, and then looking at the bank statements and seeing if there was any correlation between happiness or being in flow to the money that was coming in my bank account. Again, that was just another personal exercise for myself, but I tell you what, it was fascinating. It was a great one. So back to today. The success timeline is going to help you with two things especially. I'm going to give you 5 exercises after this. So let me just share why I'm doing this. Firstly, it's going to help you really refine and define your positioning. We are not in a world where, and this is the big mic drop moment, where you have to feel that you have to help everybody in the world, because not everybody needs your help or wants your help. As soon as I had this realization, it was profound. And suddenly my work felt so much easier. Because this thing of being a woman, and certainly as a girl growing up, we were conditioned very much to help everybody, to be nice to everybody, to bend and flex and be what anybody else wanted us to be. And the truth is that some people they don't want your help. They don't get your message. They're out of alignment. Like they're the complete opposite to you. And so in that moment, it's not your job to convince people. And instead, your job is to say, okay, that's fine. I'm going to move over here. And I'm instead going to work with these people who I can really help, who I can go much broader and wider and deeper, rather than spreading ourselves so thinly and trying to be all of the things. So looking into your success timeline and really thinking about your experiences will really help you refine your messaging, who you're talking to, so you can build that rapport. The second thing is people buy from people. We know this. This is old marketing stuff. And so in a busy world, we have to have that sense of being in our business. And for quite some years now, people have talked, experts out there have talked about outsourcing. You should only be doing the things in your business, or the 4-hour work week, or, you should be stepping back and not being in the day-to-day. And recently I've heard so many conflicting messages to that in real time. And actually they're two makeup brands. So one was by Trini Woodall. She was saying that she really connects via social media. She's the person who does all the commenting and the messaging, and she is on that day to day as part of her working day. Because she was saying, how can I make makeup unless I know what people want, unless I'm on the ground understanding the feedback, which I thought was really valid. Secondly, over the summer, me and my kids went to the Vive Roadshow, which is another makeup brand. I talked about it in my Friday favorites, and they happened to be in Covent Garden when we were in town one day. And I went because I wanted to purchase some makeup. And Jamie Genevieve, who is the CEO, I think. She's the founder and the creator. She was front and center. She was the person welcoming in. She was having selfies. She was connecting people. She was not in a separate bit like, I'm not going to come out now. She was on the ground. And I think that this is so important, that we have to find those places and the spaces where we connect with our clients. That's not to say you can't have a team or you should be doing all the things and working 18-hour days. But however big you get, I believe personally, you have to have a sense of what is going on. As much as it would be lovely, maybe, to be diva-like and kind of, take yourself away, that's, in my opinion, not the way you're going to get results. You're not going to hear those in between lines of what's on the ground, what's happening. So here we go. Here are 5 ways that you can begin to take the knowledge that you've learned from your own exercise of doing the success timeline and take it into your work, your copy, your content, your digital disco. As I mentioned, if you want to find out more of any of those things, the links are down below. Check them out and I'll see you in there. Number 1. I want you to think about what your biggest successes are up until now. And why did they happen at that time? What did it make you feel? And are there clues in there that you can translate your takeaways and why that really happened for you? So when I was about 30, I'd had a really difficult previous year. We'd had a lot of deaths in the family. I was turning 30, so I had all of those things. I mean, now I'm turned 40 and it's a whole different vibe. But it all felt very significant. And that's when I began my life coaching. And I didn't know how it was going to pan out, because I wasn't one of these people who was like, just leave your job and go and retrain and not worry about money or income or anything like that. I was very much needing to work and needing to study at the same time. And one of the things, and I would say that is one of my biggest successes, because making that bold decision, even though in a way it made no sense on paper, I had that instinctive, if you do this, it's going to open up so many doors. Again, I had no idea really all of the amazing doors that were opened up. I thought it might open 3 doors, but I went with it. I followed my gut. I also, when I did this exercise for myself, I remembered that I planned so much. So when I was doing my coaching course, there were 6 in-person days. I put them all in my diary immediately. I booked all of the train tickets. I made it a non-negotiable. I then took all of the course materials and worked out how I was going to learn it. I didn't just think, oh, well, I'll figure it out as I go. I gave myself that deadline. I want to be qualified in a year. So how do I make this work? How do I create this 10,000 word essay on these things? What needs to happen in order to make that happen? Another thing that I was thinking, much more from a energetic place, if that is something that you're thinking about, around the same time, I was thinking about having a baby. And I knew that between 30 and 40, I really hoped that I would have a family. And so I began to think about, and I actually found a list the other day of things that I needed to consider. I mean, this is the naivety of not having a baby, all you actually have no idea, and that's fine. But for example, I had a belly button piercing, and I really thought at that time, I don't want to have this anymore, because some people navigate a pregnancy with one, but I was just like, this feels like a 18-year-old me in Camden. This doesn't feel like a 30-year-old. However, I'm sorry if you're squeamish, the fastening on the piercing was so tight, I just thought, well, I'd never changed it. I'd never been able to move it. And so I booked myself an appointment at a tattoo and piercing parlor, and the person removed it for me. And it was great. And then suddenly that could heal, and that was part of the process. Another thing I was thinking about was, in our current home, because we weren't in a position to move, I was thinking, where would we put a cot? How would there be space here for a baby? And it turns out there was. And the baby, Oscar, came and lived in our house. He still lives in our house. And then we went on to have another baby. So those sorts of things, noticing your biggest successes, unpicking what happened, is so, so valuable. Number 2, what were your turning points? And I want you to think about this, especially the parts where maybe you have to look back and it might make you feel a bit uncomfortable. So when I came down to London, for example, and this is a really important part that I acknowledge and I have in the background. When I came down to London when I was 18, I moved and I went to drama school for 3 years. One of the best drama schools in the world. I was so excited. But I had a huge amount of imposter syndrome. And I'd been thinking about it and planning it, honestly, since I was about 4 years old. I mean, when I was 4 or 5, now when I'm like, how are you doing that? But when I look at my daughter, I'm not saying that she's planning to go to drama school, but when I look at her, like, she is who she is right now. And so I wouldn't discount any of that. I know her very well in that moment. So year 1 was all about imposter syndrome, not necessarily being brave, being uber grateful for every opportunity, when I was just like, come on now, you've earned this. You auditioned to get here. The second year was quite a transition in my home life, as in my family life, also the relationship that I was in. It was a really weird year. I also became very ill. I was bedridden for about 3 weeks, 4 weeks, which was a huge amount of time. And there were only 16 in a class. And so if one person is taken out, basically just messes up the numbers. And it wasn't like a part-time thing. However, at the end of the second year, I stayed in London and I made a decision to work in London. And what that summer was transformational. And so by the time I went back in the third year, I was like, let's go. I am so ready. I hit the ground running. And then in the April, I got 2 jobs back to back. I got a top agent and I left 5 months early. I almost didn't need the rest of the training. I mean, you might argue that I did need the rest of the training, but I was out to work. I was earning a living as an actor. So noticing those patterns of life and what was happening and the twists and the turns really show you what you're made of. Number 3, I want you to notice the cycles of your life. So are you somebody that is very consistent, very predictable almost, and then suddenly you have a moment where you're like, let's go, let's change everything, let's do this? I want you to notice those twists and turns in your life and give yourself that reminder of who you are and what you're made of. And notice where you got that courage, for example, or where you knew it was time to make a change. All of these things are so useful into weaving into who you are online. Equally, if you work in the coaching space like me, it's really important that my clients know that I do have that bravery. I am somebody who goes, okay, I'm going to try it. I don't really know if it's going to work, but I feel like everything in me is saying go, 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 go. I've noticed over the years, I have no issue in terms of money conversations because I know how much I've spent on my own business investments over the years. And yeah, interesting. But doing it and being in that flow will really give you that strong foundation and also that integrity. 2 more. I want you to notice the things that have been with you for a long time. And I want you to notice those good things and those things that are maybe not great for you. So maybe the small details, the fact that you've always been on top of emails, for example, those small details, not those small emails, those small details, the fact that your word and your action has always been this close. Equally, I want you to think about those habits in your life that are there in black and white, multicolored, and you're looking at them going, why am I still hanging on to this? This thing that I do all of the time no longer serves me. I want you to bring all of this to the surface. And again, when you write things like your about page, you don't have to say, hi, I'm fantastic, I have it all figured out. Sometimes it's really refreshing to talk about your flaws, to talk about those moments where you have that understanding that these things no longer work for you. Finally, you can change this to whatever works for you. When I was doing this exercise, and of course, hindsight is a great thing, I was asking myself, what would have happened if I had loved myself more in that moment? What would have happened if I was kinder in that moment? What would have happened if I was more compassionate? What would have happened if I was braver? What would have happened if I was more in tune with my instinct? And sometimes in a very kind of casual way, I wouldn't have put up with so much shit, or I would have left earlier. I would have said yes. I would have said no. I would have been bolder. And also, I want you then to notice those times where it's like, oh my goodness, you knew it. You knew it. It may not have made any sense to yourself, but acknowledging those moments where you said, let's go, let's do this. I want you to reconnect with that part of yourself, because to go into this next chapter of your life and your business, sometimes the goals, and I did it myself. I set this goal the other day for myself and my family, and I just thought, wow, I'm not really sure how that's going to happen. But my instinct said to me, but it is possible. It must be possible, because otherwise you wouldn't have thought it. You're not Einstein. Like, other people have done it. You can look around and see other people who have done it. And so going back and looking at the other parts of my life where I've made those bold moves are incredibly powerful, because they're all within all of us, within the fabric of who we are. I hope that's been useful today. If it has, let me know. Send me an email if you want to set up a call, if you want to make some mega moves and really create this next version of yourself where you are the person that you want to be and create the business that you want to have, and in a way that feels really great. Lots of love. See you next time. Bye.